Hi friends, we have a lot to unpackage today on today's Share Report, but we're only going to cover a couple things. First of them being the forms of government that we have, and then also this Friday, President Trump is supposed to meet Vladimir Putin, and they are going to be meeting in Anchorage, Alaska. I don't know what's to become of that. We will dive deeper into that topic on today's Share Report. Okay, so I thought it would be really good to talk about the different forms of government. And one of the governments that is a ruling of a government, it's been on everybody's lips lately, is the oligarch or oligarchy. And lots of people is like, oh, we're ruled by oligarchs. They're in control. They're in charge. So I thought that it would be wise just to kind of go through the terminology and what those words mean, these different forms of government. I'm going to pop a paper up here. You can follow along. I'm not going to read every single one of them. We're going to probably do a follow-up video breaking down these different forms of government. But I just wanted to dive deeper into these different phrases or different terminologies that we hear, because as we can see, we see a shift in our own government. And I just think that it's wise for us to recognize what we're up against or what we are currently dealing with this time in history. Okay, so first things first, let's talk about the monarchy. That's the first one that's on there. Monarchy, which we know is a ruling of a king or queen. There's actually two different kinds of monarchies. So as we know, King Charles, Queen Elizabeth over in the UK, that's actually considered a constitutional monarchy. So they rule, they have the power and authority to say certain things, but they have to go by their constitution. So that it would be considered like a constitutional monarchy. Then we have what we call an absolute monarchy, which would be like the King of Saudi Arabia. Okay, this guy here. So he just strictly sets the rules, sets the tones, and he's a ruler. That's what that means. So we have the constitutional monarchy, and then we have the absolute monarchy. So just to give you an explanation of the two kinds. Then we have the most popular, which we have been talking about, and I've mentioned on this channel before, and we've been hearing it a lot lately, which is oligarchs. Okay, so oligarchs basically means a rule by few. And there are so many examples. I actually wrote some notes down for some modern ones, and then also ones that were in American history in the 19th century. And in the 19th century, we can talk about John D. Rockefeller. Okay, so he's the one who started Standard Oil, all right, the petroleum, which is a multi-billion dollar company. I mean, oodles of money, so much money. He had so much influence in government policies, politics, all the things. That is a whole nother rabbit hole that we can dive deeper into, the things that we are currently facing today or things that we know of today, where he had his hands into that. He also, his organization has a lot to do with the WHO, just to kind of give you a heads up about that if you did not know. But that is just one example of some past history, oligarchs that had plenty of money, that could control government, put their money out there, dangle the carrot. Politicians would listen to them and do whatever they would say because they were powerful enough to implement their ideas or to bribe the politicians. So they had their hands in a lot of different things. So John D. Rockefeller was one of them. Okay, so and then one other idea that you could think of, that which would be like a modern day oligarchy, would be, so remember during the inauguration there was Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, all the other billionaires, these tech people, and people were like, why are they there? What are they doing there? Why are they there? They must be trying to influence policy. Well, there you go. That's a modern day example of a few people, a few tech people, or a few very rich people, getting in the ears of government and controlling policy. And just to remind you, during this scandemic, they made oodles of money. They made so much money off of the peasants who stayed home with their mask on their face, with their face diapers, scared and getting the poison dart, okay? So they made tons of money off of those people. They affected policy in so many ways. So I don't blame people whenever they showed up and looking suspicious, like what's going on with these people. Okay, so that's a modern day example of oligarchies. All right, so autocracy. As you can see, I'm kind of hopping around here. Autocracy. So that would be like an emperor or a dictator. So you would think of like an emperor like Claudius Caesar back in Rome. They would be considered an autocracy. All right, a theocracy, which we know would be a religious ruling. So Israel, before they had a king, way back thousands of years ago, before they had the king, they were actually listening for the word from God. So that would be considered like a theocracy, a religious ruling. Also, another religious kind of theocracy would be in Egypt, pharaohs, because pharaohs were looked at as they were gods. So that is another form of what we would consider a theocracy. All right, now we're going to slide into democracy and the republic. We all know what the word democracy. Sometimes it is referred to mob rule. The United States likes to use that word. There are some things that we could say, like voting, for instance. Everybody gets together, the majority, although we do have the electoral college and everything of that sort. We will dive deeper into the democracy very soon. But one of the very smart founding fathers had said that a democracy is like two wolves and one sheep, and the two wolves are trying to decide what they want to have for dinner. Of course. Okay, so it's kind of like a mob rule. Of course, the two wolves are going to be like, well, we're going to go eat the sheep, right? But the republic, we are a constitutional republic. The United States is a constitutional republic, which we're going to end on this category, on this topic, before we roll into the next topic. So the United States is a constitutional republic, meaning that we have a set of laws that we go by. Like, for instance, the electoral college that was put in place to not allow one big large state like California to win all elections every single time. Like, if they were to vote majority on something, it would only be California saving the day, or maybe losing the day, however you think about it. So the Constitution is a set of laws. One law that actually gets broken quite a bit, that is a part of the Constitution, and it's actually, let me find the article. It is actually Article 1, Section B, which gives Congress the authority to declare war. Okay, so the reason I say it gets broken all the time is because over many years now, we have seen that our country likes to go to battle all the time. Okay, and sometimes they overrule what Congress says, and they just rush into these battles without going through the constitutional process. Okay, so we're going to close on that. Although I'm going to throw this in here. Yesterday I went live with Liz and we did a book review with this book from Smedley Butler. If you did not see that video, definitely check that out. You need to look at it. We did a review. Both gave our take on what we thought about this. But since I was talking about the constitutional republic and Congress declaring how the United States should go to battle, I think that this book is definitely relevant to read. And then also Article Section 8, which I already spoke about. All of this goes together. So definitely check out that video. It is worth looking at. Okay, friends. So we are going to dive into the next topic. So I was listening to quite a few podcasts today. I love listening to Judge Napolitano of Judging Freedom. He has quite a few different analysts on there, the acronym analysts, but they're the good guys. Have been around for a while. Scott Ritter, who was actually back whenever we were given the lies about Iraq having certain things of mass destruction. You know what I am talking about, trying to conceal my words here. But anyway, I was listening and they were talking about how President Trump is supposed to go to Anchorage, Alaska, and meet with Mr. Putin, and they're going to have a discussion about this battle that we have been in and giving billions and billions of dollars towards in the last 3.5 years, wasting money, spending money when we have taxpayers here that I personally know that really could use just not even all of that money, just maybe like 1% of that, and they would be perfectly fine. Just maybe 2% to be generous. Okay, so they're supposed to have a discussion about this, and Vladimir Zelensky is not invited. So I thought that was quite interesting. Another thing that I find very interesting is that a lot of people do not know the history of the Russia and the Ukraine thing. I mean, they have no idea. This goes way, 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 way back. Even in the 90s, there was a time frame when there was discussion about, not inching closer to the border of Russia, not inching closer to any of these outlying areas, NATO to not encroach onto that. And they actually broke that agreement. So this goes way back further than we actually even realize. And most people even realize, they think, oh, this is just something that just started happening 3.5 years ago. Absolutely not. It is not. So I am very interested to find out what's going to take place, what the agreements are going to be made, who's going to be the adult in the room. I have an idea who's going to be that, but I am not going to say until that time comes. But I find it very interesting that this is finally taking place. I think it's long overdue. I think that this should have been stopped way ahead of time, and actually was. Unfortunately, a European country called England, they sent over one of their guys who actually stopped the peace agreement, stopped it from happening. So it could have been a long time ago when we didn't have to send, I think it's $80 billion more over there, when actually we need that in the United States. So, and I also find it interesting that Zelensky has not been invited. So we will see how this turns out. He has been nothing but a little brat with his hands out, more, just like, I want some more, when he knows he can't win this. He knows he can't win it. So what are you guys' thoughts? What do you guys think is going to happen? As soon as we get the information, I am going to be diving deeper into that and listening and just absorbing every single thing, because I am very curious about what's going to happen. I want this to stop. I want peace. So leave your comments if you enjoyed this video. Want more of the Share Report? The best way to support me is to subscribe and to share. Like this video, all the things. Thank you guys so much for being here, and see you next time.